It's time! It is Friday! We're doing it!
ELF! Tearless Fridays, baby. It's time. We're doing the Rage DPS in Dragonflight based on talents.
Talents, not damage,
only.
not numbers.
Listen, talents only and what they enable, okay? If they enable some sort of gameplay that is awesome, we're gonna rank it high. If it's gonna have some logical pathing or multiple bits that makes sense, we're gonna rank it high. We're not looking at damage, we're not looking at performance, utility, and all of that. It's all based on the talents, okay? I mean, we have to make this disclaimer, and hopefully, like, for this one, we're not gonna go into too much detail on each spec. We're gonna try to, like, compress it as much as possible. Obviously, we're gonna touch on a couple of things that seem really cool or really bad, but you have, like, the full Dragonflight beta classes playlist on our channel where we're going to each and every spec, like, 15.
Check it out after this video.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, man, like tuning is just not there. Okay,
it's interesting. We've raid tested a bit.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? So do you know how I found out that tuning is not in checks? Like we're speaking of the raid testing we did last week. Yeah, we saw, you know, my love for the Boomkin just increased because I was looking at my details and saw the Boomkins do 150k DPS on the boss with the dragon and
that's
the
not
eggs
bad, except that everybody else is like at 40, 50k.
Yeah, everybody else was normal, but you saw Boomkin, and listen, this is like, details was working, and without that, I could haven't seen it. And we are all here, more or less DPS hungerers, to say the least, and right now, through CurseForge, you can install lots of add-ons, details included, which work absolutely fine. CurseForge, thank you for sponsoring the video and supporting all of the content. It's been an amazing journey, and it's a win-win for everybody. Like if you have the beta right now, like you install CurseForge and you select, like, from the game client, you select beta over there on the top right, and then you can see all the available add-ons for the beta, which right now they're plenty and they're working. I mean, you can see on my interface, you know, where I have Wicors, I have Plater, all of the good stuff that you would normally like to have, like when testing, especially raiding or dungeons and stuff, it's all there. So what you have to do, and this will help us tremendously, you like our content, you want to support us, you don't know how, well, click the link in the description, install CurseForge, you know, get your add-ons for, you know, the beta, the live game, you know, Wrath of the Lich King Classic.
All of them.
There's also there. It supports that
Quick and easy.
Like, everything is there. So do it after you watch the video. Now let's get it started with the first on the list. Who's first?
Affliction, baby.
Affliction.
Dude, Affliction is I mean, we've talked about it last time, and it's coming along. It feels finished. It feels fleshed out. It's looking good, dude.
Yeah, this is the thing. Affliction right now is one of those specs that has, like, super clear AoE build, super clear single target build, no problemo. And speaking of the AoE build, I feel like right now it's much more fun and appealing and less stressful, especially because, first of all, Vile Taint applies Agony in AoE, which is goddamn amazing. You don't have to, like, tap target and apply everything, all that manually. I mean, it gives me the for all the assassination days where you have to, like, do all that shit.
I mean, as a dot spec, we can all appreciate the fact that I don't have to, like, spread a gazillion dots over before I start to do damage.
Yeah,
and with the Dark Lair changes where it can actually cleave into AoE and blast things with Soul Flame, the option See the Corruption, all that good stuff. It's looking like Affliction is getting all of the fixes.
Can we just agree here?
S tier,
it's S tier, man. It's S tier. There's no doubt about it. Now the time has come for my hate for the Boomkin to end. Not
KFC,
really,
baby.
Not really, but the Boomkins. Listen, I saw Boomkins. Okay, I saw the changes. They're looking pretty hyperinos. It's pretty pog all over the place. You can still talk about a couple of issues, maybe for Starfall or whatever, but they actually got new talents which are really new. I know the Dissonance one is new, but the Wild Mushroom, I remember that being a thing. Back
we used to have that.
Yeah.
And with the Starfall, actually can stack right now when it's no longer a cooldown. We kind of lost the, you know, cast while moving, but I think that's fine as well, since actually you can spend Astral Power in AoE, and with the builds right now, it's looking really good. I am seeing so many full moons drop left and right, and it's like new capstones and stuff is really cool.
Yeah, just like all new capstones. You know, the talents feel like that, like they're like close to finish right now. It feels amazing. not much to say S tier, right?
Yeah,
does it take the face of...
That I don't know. It's very hard to say because it feels like Boomkin might need one or two more things, and if it's getting that one or two more things, it might overtake Affliction. But until then,
I don't know. I'll thank you for this. So no, Boomkin is not in front of the S tier, not now. Next on the list we have the Arcane Mage, which I mean, not many things have changed. I mean, that wasn't that
not since we did the video. No.
Talents are still like super. We're better positioned than initially. I mean, the first time we looked at Arcane, it was a freaking mess, man. Jesus Christ! And you know, there's like there's like proper builds you can do with like you know, a little waste of talent. So that's also good. I don't know in terms of like the gameplay specific. Haven't seen many issues over there.
No, it's bursty. I mean, it has all the good stuff that Arcane has right now. Arcane orbs can be launched left and right. The capstones are really good. I mean, we did cover a lot more of the details of Arcane, which you can check in our video after this tier list. But right now, Arcane, I think it's a solid A tier. I think it's lacking a little bit of pizzazz to put it all the way into S tier, but it's a very, very solid spec. And if you're looking to main Arcane,
yeah, it's 100% good. I mean, we would probably rank it S tier just based purely on the fact that it's changed tremendously since it was first shown. But when you're looking at some other specs, you're gonna see, especially the ones that are S tier, yeah, there's that missing. Could be something more shiny over there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now next one on the list is BM Hunter, which initially was ranked decently enough. We were pretty happy about BM. Not anymore.
Well,
Flame?
not a lot changed for Beastmaster except that with the tuning, and you're actually, although the tuning is not necessarily important, but it does kind of paint a picture of what builds you want to take into the consideration. And playing it with the current, because the tuning actually affects it, and it's normally not a problem, but in the way that certain talents of BM have, you have like a lot of resource bloat, you get a lot of resets of abilities, and you can cap focus very easily with what seems to be one of the best builds that you can play right now. Barb Shot does a lot of damage, and that's pretty cool, but there are some weird things designed where there are a lot of capstones that take into consideration the amounts of pets you have out to buff them up, and these talents with all the pets in the Dire Beast are kind of spread out, so there's a little bit annoying to get all the builds, not to mention that it's probably one of the hardest spec to get down into the bottom talent tree and take maybe more than one capstone, because there's so many requirements.
I hate that.
It's
No,
heavy.
it's a pity because of that. Because initially, when we first look at Beastmaster, like theoretically and potentially, it was one of the favorite specs we could have ever wished for. But it looks like it's a little bit disappointing in terms of like what you want to get on the end of it.
Oh yeah.
So last time I think it was B tier.
It's C tier.
I would
for
put
now.
it in C tier now. It dropped.
It's doing damage, so people just like the fact that it's doing damage.
Boomkin is doing damage too, but you know, Red are doing damage as well, but you know, it's not a thing.
Well.
Okay, let's move on to Destro Warlock, which, like, in all fairness, the last time this was an S tier. Since then, we did discover a couple of issues, but it's still like one of the most awesome specs in the game in Dragonflight right now. There's not much to like. I mean, you can have like multiple builds. You can have like the single target bolt builds, which are really fun if you're like into that. Like, we all know how Demo can do in AoE with the trillion 0.1 million imps.
That's the cool part about AoE, because you normally have just implosion in terms of your AoE damage and whatever your pet does, your Felguard does, but now with the Guillotine, which was renamed recently, you have like a 45 seconds AoE burst damage, which is interesting. That's outside of Implosion. And if you do take Demonic Strength and Soul Strike, you have some Cleave ability, which is something that Demo didn't really have. You just had pets, and sometimes you explode them and they deal AoE damage. So it feels like AoE has gone like an overhaul. Although Nether Portal still has some design issues that we've mentioned. I think we've talked about this in our Warlock podcast with Kalamazi and Shelley. Yeah. So you can check all that out as well. But overall, I think Demo is looking to be amazing. I think it's probably top of A tier. It used to be, I think we classed it S tier.
Yeah, and also like the Tyrant now only gives 3 shards. Also that, it's a little bit sad, but yet it's not like the end of the world. We can just...
It's really good, but Affliction and Balance got a little bit more, and it feels like they could do a little bit more.
Yes, 100%. All right, next on the list, another Warlock spec. We have the Destruction Warlock.
All right.
Which is, I think, is like for the most part,
good.
the simplest and the most straightforward spec. Yeah, it's good. There's not too much bad things to say. I remember the chat we had with Kalamazi and Shelly was all Kalamazi was like, listen, Destro will probably be like giga based in like all departments, no problemo. In terms of the talents, it's again very straightforward and not too much negative to say about it.
Nope. I mean, we get pretty much everything that we love about Destruction right now. You get the tier set in a playstyle right now, and it doesn't feel as degenerate as it does on live. I've played it through a couple of dungeons with big AoE pulls, and even though people were overgearing me, I could still pull off some decent numbers. It didn't like skyrocket, like triple everybody else's numbers, so that's really cool to see. Plus, you get like pretty much all of the beloved things that Destro has had over the years, from legendaries, conduits, Azurite powers, and you can build it with multiple capstones. It's like leagues different from BM. You can actually spread out to the opposite sides of Destro. You can cast big juicy soul fires in single target and never cast Immolate again.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I mean, okay, so there's maybe some forced talents like, I don't know, Flashpoint or the Diabolic Embers, but those are like really nitpicking at this point. I feel Destro is a well-deserving S tier.
S tier, just below balance. It could be better than balance, but I think we can agree the fact that maybe balance deserves a little bit of a spotlight.
It's very close. Now, for the Fire Mage, which I'm happy to say we both agree on the fact that Fire Mage is bonkers.
It's really good.
It's like it's basically one of the best versions in the last, I don't know, 2-3 expansions so far. It's amazing. I mentioned this in the last time. It is not the easiest spec to get into, but once you understand it and get a little bit with the muscle memory of it, it's way easier. Plus, they're adding now talents that actually make it a bit easier to like understand it and follow the flow of it. This especially talked about this the last time as well. The talent that has Ignite, reduce the cooldown for Fire Blast. That's
so good.
That is so good. That is a quality of life change that will have it a little bit easier for, I would say, newer players to get into it and start learning how it works. Because the truth about Fire Mage is, if you miss out a step during your combust window, you're gonna miss a lot. You're gonna lose a lot. This is very punishing for Fire
Speaking of that, something that I really love about Fire Mage, because I've always been on the fence, and this says a lot about the spec, is that you can use Phoenix Flames within with a, I don't know what, the Alexstrasza's Breath or something. The Phoenix Flames makes them crit in the combustion. You can have like a much smoother combustion window. You can spread out your Fire Blast more evenly, so you can maintain those Blast Smash and all those cool buffs. Not to mention that you can finally spread Ignite back again with Fire Blast, which, come on. And I feel like Fire Mage doesn't have the pizzazz of Boomy and Destro and Affliction. Fire Mage is just super solid. All of the good mechanics are there.
It's improved in all departments, and it deserves an S tier.
Yeah, it's S tier as pure. The best example of what you can do with like all of the solid mechanics. Just make them work.
Just make them better. That's about it. Which again can be argumented for Demo or Arcane, but not quite to the same extent.
Yeah.
Okay, next up on the list, we have the Frost Mage. Again, it's a similar story to Arcane, where the first iteration was very questionable. Now it's looking like it has a very, very solid design. I think we mentioned this in the last time as well. You have the Glacial Spike build, you have the Orb build, you have the Frostbolt build. I love this when you have this many options.
As the most amount of different builds in terms of like the focus of your rotation and playstyle from all of the mage specs, and probably maybe for most of the range specs period, because the agency of Frost is very different from Spike and Ice Lance and Orb and Frostbolt. It's very different, and I feel like they're doing a much better job at spreading out the capstones, and Icy Veins kind of spreads out into all the capstones, which was harder to get to before.
I know, and that's good.
I don't know exactly how it is in terms of like, because a lot of these builds are very heavily reliant on tuning. So if we take that out of the equation, it's looking to be super cool to look at. I would put it somewhere A tier or
very strong A tier.
Yeah,
very strong A tier. I feel it's maybe very close. It's not as good as Demo. But it can compete with Arcane in terms of its.
It could overtake Arcane if it's looking cool and the variety is there. For me, it's gonna take Arcane. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Marksmanship Hunter.
Surprisingly, maybe the best Hunter spec that I was able to look at in the last week.
Hands down.
Marksmanship had some weird designs in terms of the talents where everything was positioned, because a lot of its mechanic is being enabled by specific things, like multi-shot enables trick shot, and it was really weirdly placed. And I still don't know if I 100% like where multi-shot is right now, because it's kind of in the middle bottom the left side of the tree, which is kind of where AoE is, but you have to spend a bit to get to it. However, it's doing way better in this design.
Yeah, it's I think I agree. It's looking like as the best design hunter spec in terms of like its talents. The Wailing Arrow also received a couple of upgrades, which makes it very at least much more interesting. So I don't know if this is gonna be a hard one to rank because we have BM and C.
It's probably better a little bit than BM in terms of what the talent. If we're taking based on talents, it's probably better than BM in terms of his design.
Better.
Wailing Arrow has an identity now, but it still feels like it's lacking. I don't know.
Is it better in terms of like talents, design? So
yeah.
But is it better than Frost Mage?
No,
because I don't feel it's better than Frost Mage. It doesn't have the same variety, and there's still like a couple of issues there. So it's not bad, but I think B tier is fair. It's like the middle.
Marksmanship feels like whatever build you're gonna be making, you're going to have to sacrifice a bunch of like core mechanics as opposed to something like Frost Mage, which gives you some of them baseline already, like all the mages do, while you have to talent into a lot of it as marksmanship. So that's kind of what's keeping it for me from being like a much better spec.
Okay, fair enough. So we're keeping it in B tier because we have to take into account how we reckon like with the talents on all the other specs. All right, next up on the list, poster boy for Dragonflight, the Evoker, Devastation in this regard. We didn't really have a lot of bad things to say about it last time. I think it's the case still. This is a very contentious spec to put out because, for instance, I don't know about you, but what's ranking it very highly for me are most of the things that the people hate about it, because I think it's interesting, because I like spinning the table around and seeing like, oh, this is new. We're like flipping the meta where you have a 25-yard range caster, which I think is really cool. Obviously, not a lot of people like it, but then again, why do you want to play a new class if you don't want to embrace the new things and you just want it to be more of the same? No.
So Devastation brings, the 25-yard range, the empowered spells, which are things that you either love it or hate it.
Yeah, this is what comes with bringing in a brand new class. Of course, you have to like get used to the very different gameplay, which we both enjoy. This is our tier list, and we're going to rank it based on that. We like the concept of it, the proc system and the priority system. It's like all very different and it's really super cool.
It's new and intriguing, man. Like for me, Devastation is, if we're gonna be ranking, it's probably just below Demonology. It feels a lot more interesting than Arcane and Frost, probably because it has the new factor, right? It's what's keeping it from being a little bit better is that there's not a lot of build variety in terms of talents, but that comes down to tuning. However, even mechanical wise, talents are a little bit more set in stone, and we'll see how that progresses. But right now it's middle late tier, something like that.
Yeah. Let's put it behind the Demonology, because I feel that like the potential of this pick is not yet tapped.
I mean, it's looking like it has a lot of potential. We'll see how that they develop.
Okay, next up on the list, Elemental Shaman, and we do have a recent video on this.
Yep.
I feel like for the most part, this is one of the most interesting range specs currently in Dragonflight. Also interesting fact here, Elemental Blast replaces Earth Shock.
Looks like that's gonna be the thing. It's gonna be a little bit weird in terms of how the rotation will function, but it's
for everybody who got used to it, like for the last couple, it's gonna be the weird. It's very cool that at the bottom of the tree is like you have like all of like the cool legendaries and abilities, that can really like enhance the gameplay. I mean, let's face it, man, the Shaman talent tree, whatever spec you're looking at, it was like a winner from the get-go. Elemental is not an exception to this. Okay, it's like.
So the thing with Elemental is that it doesn't have that many. Let's say we take Frost Mage for instance. You have like Glacial Spike, Ice Lance, Frostbolt, and all. There are very different abilities, and you can have a rotation around it. Elemental doesn't have that many spells that it has a rotation around it, but you can get a lot of like. Elemental probably has like the coolest bottom of the tree talent of everybody. You have almost all the legendaries that are amazing. You have some of the Covenant abilities that are amazing. A lot of cool talents and conduits and Azurite traits. All of them that will alter your playstyle. And I think that's one of the coolest things that a talent tree can do. The only thing that's probably keeping for me Elemental being an S is that I actually don't know exactly how this is all going to work, because there's a lot of stuff that make things really cool. So they can either make it amazingly cool, or they're gonna be like, oh, but that's just
average stuff. Yeah, I get you.
However much I love demonology, I think it's a little bit better elemental.
Yeah, it's probably at least a little bit more interesting for sure. And again, it receives a lot of cool new, not new, but a lot of cool toys it was used to on the bottom side of the tree, which makes it very, very interesting indeed. But
DDO.
Last but not least, I think one of the most controversial range specs currently in Dragonflight, Shadow Priest. And listen, we're gonna, we're like super, fans of Public. We pay close attention to what he has to say and all of that. We tested the spec as well. And listen, man, the theme is really awesome, man. It's there, like all gods and stuff. And
like. The fantasy of the spec that they're trying to nail is really cool, and I think maybe that's why it's consistently one of the hardest specs in the game to design with every new expansion. Every new expansion seems like at the beginning they're having the most amount of trouble with Shadow, and I think it's safe to assume that Shadow went through the most amount of iterations out of all of these specs.
Yeah,
the thing is, if you approach it with a starry-eyed new Shadow Priest is looking like one of the coolest, I would probably put it into like S+ from that perspective. However, there are a lot of problems under the hood with how spells are working, where builders are better than spenders, where you have way too many builders and there's no clear way which one to pick because one does more damage, but one has like 5 other talents that goes into it.
Yeah, there's also like the capstones that are, in terms of like pathing, there's some issues over there.
You know what the best analogy for Shadow Priest right now, it's like the coolest looking Ferrari that's kind of broken that cannot go over 60 or 70.
They need to get it into the mechanics shop, have it fixed all over the way. But yeah, I mean, there's also like the Mind Spike design kind of conflicts with Mind Flay as well. AoE still feels weird as Shadow this time around. There's a lot of problems still. It's like they've opened up this new box of changes, but they haven't really finished it. So we have to we cannot just rank it because it's really cool.
I don't think it would be fair. I would probably put it into B tier because there has to be a balance. Like the good things are putting it into S tier or above, but the bad things are pulling it into D tier. So I think that B tier is kind of like middle of the ground.
It's decent. I mean, there's no way any of these specs can be put into D tier. All of these specs have enough positives to be ranked at least C and above. Obviously for us was BM that was like the most problematic, I would say. Definitely a lot of issues over there. But moving on from B towards, there's we can definitely see the potential, and the S tiers are basically the ones that feel the most complete. And tuning aside, okay, you see Boomkin over there, but we're now ranking it because of the damage it does.
Oh no,
it's
fine. But it's mostly about fun and how cool it is to open up the spec talent tree and it's like, oh, I want that. So that's kind of what we're looking here right now.
Yeah.
Not in like, oh, but it's doing so much damage, because we know that you guys are leaving comments by how can you rank C tier BM when it's doing the most amount of damage out of all the hunters? Well, it's not about the damage.
It's not about the damage, yes, and we're not testing. We have not based this on any performance whatsoever, because for real, we can only test out like dungeons and raid testing whenever it's available from Blizzard.
Too, so.
And it's not that much. Once we get into like Mythic Plus testing and actual consistent raid testing, and we get tuning phases past more and more, then we can actually have like predictions, not setting stone predictions on these specs overall, as we used to do like on the live game, okay? But this is the overall picture. I think it's pretty decent, apart from a couple of issues. We have a lot of, I would say, winners here. And if you're playing one of these specs or been thinking about picking up a main, I think it's becoming clearer and clearer on where, at least in terms of how the talents are working and being like built up together, there's like a clear image. Performance-wise, damage-wise, are you going to get into groups, invited to groups-wise? We don't know yet, all right? But as far as talents go, this is how it's looking. And you know who's the best looking out of all of the planets and universes? Our Patreons, baby!
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting the content as always. And big shout out to CurseForge for sponsoring the video. Remember, guys, if you want to help us out and you get something out of it too, because it's like the most stable platform for add-ons, just click the link in the description, install it from that link. It's very important that you do that. And enjoy your add-ons, whatever you decide to play. Live, retail, classic, they got you covered all the way.
Make your WoW experience cool.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you.
for watching
the
video.
video.
You fucking monkey. All right. Bye, everybody. Have
See you
a great
later,
weekend.
kids. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.